Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I'm coming from the middle of the map. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, so it's great to
Uh,
meet you. And before we get into your work, I want to know, how did you survive the last 3.5 years? How did you get through the pandemic, and how has it changed you?
well, I'm in New Jersey. As I told you, I'm near Philadelphia, not New York.
Yeah.
Most people, we're in South Jersey are considered secondary citizens. North Jersey gets all the attention because
Yeah.
they're near New York. But uh, but the governor shut everything down, Governor Murphy, and but our business continued where I worked. Where I work, it's a distributor, and it does 4 states. It's only one location, and we continue to work. And but things were slow. But most businesses, restaurants, and everything was closed down, and you had to wear a mask. And I continued to write, but there was problems with my publishing company, the main one I deal with, because they had to shut down in New York. They told me, and so things were delayed. But I did a lot of work during that time.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If I put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day, and one of the kids was curious as to what you do for a living, how would you answer that child?
Well, what I do is I work. I was working. I still do in an office. I only come in now part time to help out with people. I worked 5 days a week, 3 hours a week, and what I did was enter finances for the company. So what I did is enter money, and since I was only there 3 days, I didn't do too much. Entered the checks and everything, and also the AR from that weren't cash sales or something. I did that, and then I also did credit. I was saw the credit manager, and that's what I've done for a long time. I first worked in with a warehouse, and then I got to do this. It's a family business,
Okay.
and my brother owns it.
Okay.
But right now, what I'm doing is helping out. And I haven't done this too many times. Fortunately, only once in the last 2 years. There was a person with a bad check from a few years ago. I went to Levittown and filed. Now, the district attorney hasn't made its decision yet, whether he accepts it or not. But I've in the past, everything's been accepted. But I don't like to do it, but my brother makes me.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
Uh, I didn't know. I didn't know really in the third grade but when I was in high school, I wanted to be a journalist,
Okay.
and the sophomore year I took journalism, but I came delusioned with it,
Yeah.
and I decided when I was in at the University of Pennsylvania after a year at Xavier. I had 2 English courses, and I really fell in love with poetry. I was there for psychiatry, as was Xavier. The reason I left Xavier is because they had mandatory ROTC, and I didn't accept the religion, even though I went all through grammar school and high school with it. And they were really great, and education is great there. Was great there, but I went to the University of Pennsylvania in night school and psychiatry, and I also worked in the experimental department just as a job, an assistant. They told me what to do and everything, uh, feeding rats and pigeons and cleaning the cages. But they actually told me how to tell what to do. They told me what to feed them, et cetera, at what days and all this stuff. So I learned a lot, and I basically learned at Xavier. I took zoology, 2 courses, human creatures, and then humans. And then at University of Pennsylvania, I studied psychology, all everything about psychology. Then
Yeah.
I went. They wanted me to stay, and they didn't want me to switch to English, and so I went. I went to Temple. The landlord at Temple, my landlord I had a room. He worked at Temple, so I went there. They accepted me, so I got a BA at Temple.
So you've been writing poetry for 50 plus years now. What is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
about poetry? Why do you love it so much? Why has it been this love affair that you've always come back to throughout the years?
because I like writing. You know, the first poems wrote were it would take me hours to write 10 lines. You know, essentially. But I really think poetry is one of the most important things in life, in society, because I think poets can see into things, the workings of life, and also I believe it's more. You know, orator just is. Uh, what am I? Well, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling now. The orator is literal language, and they use some poetry. Uh, Journalism is literal language for the most part. Poetry uses poetic expression. I think if you know with the figures of language and all that stuff. I've read Aristotle, Poetics, and Horace's Poetics many years ago on my own in English, not in translation, and I, you know, I just think poetry says has. It's not even. It's really accepted today. Like I think sometimes I'm not a supporter of Trump, but he's a lot in New Jersey, and I don't think people really understand. They expect everything to be literal, and a lot of times he says something that are not literal. Now I don't agree with him and stuff, but literal language is too dominant. The people don't speak with figuratively or poetics, and a lot of the liberal writing today is not really doesn't have figurative language. It's very prose like. They talk about their life and things of that sort. I don't really do that too much myself because recently I've been writing like history books, but there is some poetics in it. Poem "The Martyrdom" and "The Lives of the Virgin" probably have more of that than
Yeah.
the others.
So let me ask you this. Who's been kind of a hero for you in your life?
Well, the two writers that I admired in the 20th century were a course I had, which it was James Joyce, not Ulysses, but Finnegan's Wake. I had a course in that, and Ezra Pound. Now, the problem with Ezra Pound, which I didn't think before, and I started to follow him and be like him, is that he's too elusive. And I got away from that. That was in the Antichrist and a little bit in Jason. I became like that. And then I went to the opposite extreme, Prometheus the Firebird, because I wanted to show people I could write just in plain English. And that my teacher, my what do you call it? My creative writing teacher was very upset when I wrote Jason, which I wrote after Finnegan's Wake, which is not really like Finnegan's Wake. And he said, "You can write in English very well. Why are you doing this?" And then I wrote the Antichrist, which is in different languages, and it's really takes quotes from things mostly, and it's only a little bit of my writing. And you know, I have a quote from when I was in Italy from an Italian newspaper. I put in there about Jimmy Carter's uh, nuclear agreement, how he was did the nuclear agreement and everything. It was so well and all this stuff. And then I have also in the poem uh, about the Iran Revolution, which you know was at the time when he was there, the press and what they were saying. You know, so I tried in the Antichrist to do. I've talked about this before to do like Iran thinks we're the Antichrist, and the United States thinks Iran is the Antichrist. So that's kind of like the poem, you know. And it's has I spent a lot of time in socialist countries. I always was a socialist, but I wanted to use Bartok's Bluebeard Castle so in my poem Jason. And I studied Hungarian, how to pronounce it with a tutor. She had a family in Hungary and her relatives. So I went there and I visited them 3 times. So I got to know the father a lot and their sons. They had 2 sons, and one had a wife. and I traveled all around. I went through eBus, the travel agency, the socialist travel agency. It cost me nothing. All I did is have a room for the night at different cities. I went all over, and I traveled in the day, so it wasn't expensive. I ate in regular socialist restaurants, but uh, who was the father? I would eat there once a week at with him and his wife. He took me a couple times to independent restaurants. Qatar allowed them, people to have small independent businesses, and other countries did. Later, they did in Eastern Europe. Uh, when I met a girl in Slovakia. She was my friend for about 3 years. She visited me twice during CSSR when it was together with socialists. And she studied in Paris. She came and visited me twice, once with her girlfriend, and once I took her to Independence Hall, which she really liked in Philadelphia, which is not far away. And once we stayed with him and her girlfriend, her and her girlfriend stayed at my brother's place at the shore. And I took her around the shore. And I had her once stay with my mother. I took her over to my house, but I didn't have her stay with me because she was a lot 20 years younger. She was in the university. She studied art restoration, and so we became good friends. But eventually, I stopped seeing. It was difficult not seeing her because she's in Slovakia and the School of Prague. And how can you keep a relationship only seeing a person once in a while and
Yeah.
writing once in a while? So that ended.
Yeah. So let so let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Uh, I would like to see her again.
Okay.
To say hello because
Yeah.
see what happened to her. I also met some girls in Bulgaria, and then I'm in Sofia. I didn't hardly ever drove. I drove to Plovdiv, which is an artist city, and I met a girl there. I met a few others, but I met a girl there, and I went back and saw her twice, but that was a short lived thing. And otherwise, in Hungary, I met no one, no women, or no one, and I traveled through the DDR, which is Eastern Germany, by myself, and I took tours in the beginning of in Czechia and then Slovakia because they, even though it was one country, the tours were different, and eventually they split up because the Slovaks didn't want to be part of Czechia. They wanted to be independent, and that happened eventually, which was good. They wanted, both countries wanted to be independent because they're a little different,
Yeah.
uh, and that happened afterwards. During the World Wars, they put them all together as one. World War One and then World War Two.
Yeah.
They were yeah, uh, but that was it. And I was in East Germany a lot. I went across for an afternoon to Berlin. I didn't like it. I liked the East German city much better because the section I went into was very nice. I'm
Yeah.
sure the rest of the city is.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem I was learned from there is they first of all they didn't accept capitalists really. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
They were socialists. That was a problem. But the real problem was the sanctions and the blockades, which really works because that's the main reason they fell. They couldn't get products, and people weren't happy. And like the sons wanted to get new apartments, they couldn't build them. They didn't have the material. They had to live in an apartment. He had a nice small apartment, he was in a newspaper. They had a number of newspapers. They just didn't have one, and he had a good position in the newspaper. And he wanted to get a little home, which he took me to his friends. And in fact, my girlfriend's parents lived in a small, nice house, which was actually nicer than mine, but wasn't that big, but it was much nicer. But they didn't. As far as I don't know, because I don't see everything, but they were a pretty good, well-off family, and they lived in a very nice house, but it was small. And then also in Hungary, the travels, the countries I travel to, the houses they received money for having me, and they were much nicer than the person that lives with a friend of mine here. But of course, they didn't have the it's that was like how many years different. So they didn't have cell phones and things, televisions as like they do to now. But their houses were a lot better than people. Their rent places were much better than people here, and we don't know that. Uh, People just don't understand, especially people that haven't gone to Europe, how nice it is. But of course, there's things here that are much better.
Yeah.
I believe I'll end this, that things are, my belief is things are better before and things are better after. A mixture of two would be the best. Because as I said, they didn't accept capitalists. And, China does. But the problem with China is, I think, my opinion is, they don't regulate the capitalists and they get away with things. And now, XI wanted to make it more centralized. But like we control the auto business and safety and all that, and a lot of things by the FDA, but we have not controlled the pharmaceutical businesses as Bernie Sanders and the Democrats are trying to do with the extreme prices that are so they're like in a lot of ways like that,
Yeah.
and they haven't learned to do that. But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
So
So let me ask you this. Of all of the things that you've seen and done in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
uh, my writings. But, that's essentially it. I've had a lot of problems, uh, but I basically, work on a family business. I'm lucky to be able to do that. I don't receive a great salary. My brother owns the business, but I have a nice house. That's what I'm happiest most about. Then I put an addition on in 2008, with I have my stereo, my main stereo, and I have a writing desk, which I'm at now, and I can see the TV, but I don't watch TV too much. It's just local news, and I do that in the other two rooms. I listen to the stereo mostly. It's a very good stereo, much more than my 2016 track. Most people want a nice car and don't listen to nice
Yeah.
stereos,
Yeah.
or they listen on their cell phone, and that's ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So do you have a poem that you can recite? Do you have a favorite poem?
Uh, well, I like all of them. My favorite is probably the Martyrdom, even though a lot of it I wouldn't do to write today, even though I wrote it in the early '90s. But I just came out with "Exists Mankind." I would like to talk about that for a minute.
Sure. Yeah.
That was on just recently on a billboard in New York City and London. I had to pay, but it was very small. I paid for it. With West Point Print did it. They really did that for me with the billboard thing and put it on there. They had got an offer and they asked me to do it. It's about science. It's basically the only book I wrote about science. And I think today people think that Big Bang, which is the accepted theory, which I accept too, pretty much. People that's where the origin of life was. It wasn't. It's only created the universe, the non-material and material universe, and the Earth, and the scientific elements are there, the molecules that have life, but life didn't appear till many years later, and a Greek philosopher thought it came from the ocean 5 centuries BC. And modern scientists who've gone into the ocean believe that the first, like jellyfish and things were the first creatures. And then I have about biologicals I studied the Savior, the evolution, and that's really believed. Like that happened years ago, and it didn't happen from the Big Bang. It happened from life on Earth, and I don't think people understand that today. People understand it. Then I have mythology in there, world mythology. Uh, I'm not really good at. I used to give readings. I did a number of successful readings in the late '70s, and they got reviews. But I'm not very good at reading anymore.
Well, then let me ask you this. Everyone out there has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but everyone, you're the one that controls it. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I think I'm a very good poem, but I don't think it can be judged by me. It has to be judged by others. and that's I've always been because wasn't published. I was always a little too proud of it. I try to stress that a lot to people, but my family has no interest in my poetry and never has, and they still don't today. The only person that does is one of my nephews uh, that is interested. No one else is. They have never been, and they still aren't interested. My brothers, my nieces, and except for the one nephews, none of them are interested in. And when my parents weren't interested, they discouraged me very much, and I was discouraged very much. And so and my books aren't selling very well, but I think the important thing, though I've been disagreed with marketers, is to build a name up for myself. And nobody's going to buy your book unless they know who you are,
Yeah.
if you understand what I mean. That's why I'm doing podcasts, and that's why I went on the billboard. But I really refuse all marketers. I don't even accept them anymore because I get so many calls. But I just say no to them. It's too much. I have to get returns for what I spend. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I get it. I totally do. So let's put the good word out there. If anyone wants to get your latest book, any of your other books, reach out to you, learn more about you, where's the best place to go?
Uh, the books are all on. They're all over the world. They don't sell much. Amazon has them, but I've been a little bit disillusioned with them recently. They don't have the new cover, which is this of Exist Mankind. They have the old cover, which wasn't really what I wanted. I don't know why that ever came out. That was a mistake. I've never had any problems with West Point, and the early books were I was the publisher with West Point, which they wanted, but unfortunately they came out as Westwood, and I've changed them really now that they're being changed over uh, to me as the publisher. They want that because I can deal directly with a distributor. But I can get the distributor to make my books, but I don't want to. I want them to because it's easier to have them, and I deal with them. They can produce it less expensive and easier, and etc. West Point does my printing. I've dealt with a number of other companies, but I'll be almost dealing with them solely now because I've had done 9 books with them, and I really like them a lot. Though I've had problems, especially when COVID was around. But here's another one. This is not done. I'm not the publisher on this, and I didn't do it with them. I did it with the guy who was I did with Book Trails. Uh, I've got all my books with him. This is a modern book like Jason. This is with Sweet Spire. I just did because they were too busy, and I did that. Uh, that is like uh, that is like. Let me explain Jason to you. It's in it's in like a Phineas Wake language. A made up language, but on the side I have where where the references are. So if you read this up, you can. I've just read it in public once, and people liked it with the sounds. But if you read the side where it comes from, like Apollonius Rhodius, the myth, Seneca, uh, some of the like William Morris in the 19th century, et cetera, and you read it along with it, you can understand it better. And this is the same poem, this one here. This came out the beginning of last year. See, it says 2023. All the dates on my books are the year I finished them. And this was done at the beginning of last year. It's the Congress, Maria Salazar, Elvira Salazar, proposed that they vote on denunciation of socialism. And some of the Congress said we're wasting our time doing this.
Hmm.
That has nothing to do with anything. So 120 voted to denounce it, 80 didn't, and that hurts somebody like me a lot
Right.
because because it's almost like being a hate crime or anti-Semitic to turn and get propagandize against people who are socialists and are Marxists, and she did that. And I have a satire about 50 of them, senators and congressmen who were anti-socialist. And what it is, It's their biography, which isn't a satire, because I have on the back cover, I want people to read the biographies of all the people they elect, but I do a satire because I have it kind of a babbling language. It's like I'll show you. Here's one person. I'm just picking out one person. I don't know if I can show you. It's difficult to read, but I don't know if you can see. No, you can't see it. But
I get the idea. Yeah.
yeah, if you go on Nook, or you can get a sample on Nook, or on what is it, Kindle, and you can see what it is. So I
Okay.
have 50, but I have their name in that in the top, then the bottom I have the real pro's name. So that's it's a satire. But go ahead.
Oh, no, 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 you're good. I was just gonna say, I
That's the
really
end of it. That's the end of it.
yeah,
What
no,
I
no.
was saying. That's
Yeah,
it.
no, no. Yeah, no, that's good. No, I appreciate you opening up your portal for a little bit for me, your story, and I hope everybody goes out and buys your book. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it, Joe. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Take care.
Bye.